We begin today the Gemara on the top of Daf Chafal from Aleph, the first line from the top of the Yamud. We were speaking before about walls that could collapse. That, if you have such a situation, then when you daven and you fast for it, so Gemara brings a story related to this. Ilfe v'Rab Yechanan have a garsi by Raisa. Ilfe and Rab Yechanan were learning Torah. The chikelahu milsa tuva. They became very, very squeezed with money. They had nothing to eat. So Amri, they said, Nekim v'nezel v'nevediska. Let's go out and go do some business. V'nekayim benafshin, and we'll fulfill with ourselves what it says in the pasuk. Efes kiloyeh b'chayavim. But there should be no poor person amongst you. And as Rashi says, they said b'cha ba'atzmacha, meaning it's totally in you. You have to do something that you shouldn't be poor. So we have to go make some money. Oslo they went. They traveled on a business trip, and then on the way, Oisvi Tusi Guderiye. They sat under a very dilapidated wall that was very possible to collapse. Have a kokarchi rifte, and they were eating bread there. Also, tre malachi yasharis. So two malachi yasharis came in that area. Shamer Rab Yechanan, and Rab Yechanan heard the Amachad lechavre, that one malach says to his friend, Nishdi alayu hai guda. Let's throw down this wall upon them. V'niktalinu, and it will kill them. Why do they deserve this? Shemanich chai elam haba, because they left the life of elam haba. And they were learning Torah and they left that. And instead they are occupying themselves with the life over here that's only temporary in this world. So the other malach responds and says, Shafkinu, leave him, the ikebuchad, the kaimelei shaita. There's one that his time is still ahead of him, meaning that he's going to be a great person in the future, so his time hasn't come to pass away. Rabbi Yechanan Shama. Rabbi Yechanan heard the conversation of these malachim. Ilfe loy shama. Ilfa did not hear this conversation. Amalei Rabbi Yechanan le'ilfa. Rabbi Yechanan asked Ilfa, Shama mar midi? Did you hear anything over here that anyone was speaking anything? Amalei Ilfa says, Loy, I didn't hear anything. Amar, so Rabbi Yechanan says to himself, Midishami no. If I'm the one that heard what the malachim are saying, ve'ilfa loy shama, and Ilfa did not hear, so shmami no. So what this means is lididi kaimeli shaita. When he was saying that there's a greatness for one person here, he's talking about me. That's why I heard this. Amalei Rabbi Yechanan. So Rabbi Yechanan turns to Ilfa and says to him, Ehadir, I'm going back to learn Torah. Vayki benafshay, and I will fulfill with myself another pasuk where it says the opposite. Ki lo yechtal evyoim b'kerev haaretz, and it'll never cease to be poor people amongst you in the land. I'm going to go and learn Torah, and someone else will support me. So what happened? Rabbi Yechanan hada. Rabbi Yechanan went back to the Beis Medrash to learn, and Ilfa lo yada. Ilfa did not go back. Now, the Asa Ilfa, by the time Ilfa returned, Malach Rabbi Yechanan. They had appointed Rabbi Yechanan to be a king, or in other words, to be a Rosh Hashiva. And in those times, when someone was appointed to be a Rosh Hashiva, as Rashi here brings, similar to what it says by the Kayan, a Kayan agadlu me'echav, gadlu mishalechav, that a Kayan has to be rich and so on, a Rosh Hashiva, they gave him the money and he was financially supported and everything was good with him. And now Ilfa comes back. Amrullah, they said to Ilfa, if you would have sat there and continued learning Torah, so then Rabbi Yechanan wouldn't have become the king, you would have become the Rosh Hashiva. Because apparently Ilfa was more knowledgeable in Torah than Rabbi Yechanan. So if he would have stayed, he would have been appointed the Rosh Hashiva. Ozal, so now he wanted to prove to them that even after going away and he was on business, but nevertheless he didn't forget his Torah. So he went, Tola nafshe biskriya desfinte. He hung himself at that pole that's in the center of a boat, where you hang the sails of a boat. I forgot what it's called in English. So he went and hung himself from there, the mast of the boat. So he hung himself there. Omar, he said, if there's anybody they could ask me a question about a braisa of Rab Chia or Rabbi Shia, and I will not be able to answer and show him the source of this according to who it goes in a Mishnah. I will fall down from this high place on the boat here and I will drown. He wanted to prove to them this point, that anyone could ask him a question about a braisa, he'll show the source in a Mishnah, he didn't forget his Torah. So the Gemara brings an example. Asa hu sabe. So this older person came, Tanale, and he learned them the following braysa. A person that's passing away says, Tnu shekel lebanai b'Shabbos. Give a shekel for my children for a Shabbos. In other words, for 1 shekel for the week. A shekel is a half a selah. Give them a half a selah for the week. But he has enough children that they need at least a selah to support them for the week. So what do? Naisnan lahem sela. We give them actually the full sela. We interpret that his intention was to give the full sela, even though he only said to give a shekel. Rashi here explains that really he wants to support his children. He said a small amount because he wants his children to know that they have to work on their own to make an income, but he doesn't want to give his children an oifen that they shouldn't have what to eat. So therefore we give the full sela. But however, ve'im amar, if he does say in a term that is more clear what he wants, he says to people, elo shekel, again, al titnu lahem, that is, al titnu lahem elo shekel, do not give only a shekel. So now he made it very clear, do not give more than a shekel. So ein neis lahem elo shekel. So then you only support his children and give them a shekel, which is a half a selah. Now, im amar, if this person passing away said, Meisu, if my children die, yirshu acherim tachtayim. So then others will inherit my money instead of them. So now we see that his real intention is that his money should go to somebody else, that other people are going to yarshin this money and not his children. So then ben sha'amatnu, whether he simply said give, he didn't say don't give only, he just said give. Ben sha'amar altnititnu, or he uses the term do not give more than a shekel. Ein naislem el a shekel. We only give a shekel. Okay, because we see that his real intention is that the money should go to somebody else. So the question was, according to who does this Braisa go? Where in the Mishnah do you find the opinion that's the source of what it says in this Braisa? Amalei, so he answered him and he said, Ha mani Rab Meiri. This Braisa follows the opinion of Rab Meir. What did Rab Meir say? The Omar, mitzvah lekayim divra ames. It's a mitzvah to fulfill what a person that's passing away told you to do. Which means, as Rashi explains, even though these children were the Yarshim, they were the rightful Yarshim to get the money. But nevertheless, if you see that his ratzon is that somebody else should Yarshin the money and not the children, he says, if my children die, the money should go to someone else, so then we say that you give the children only a shekel, and the money will then go to someone else. So you mekayim divri ameis, and the children are not going to Yarshin the way what they would usually deserve. So this Braisa here could be explained according to the opinion of Rab Meir. So he proved this point that he can bring a source for the Braisa from this Tana. Another story the Gemara brings, also connected to this, and being in a place where the house is dilapidated and the walls could fall. Amru Allah val Nachum ish gamzu. They said regarding Nachum ish gamzu, and the Gemara will soon bring the story why he got this nickname of gamzu, ish gamzu. Shah Yisuma mishtei einav. He was blind on both of his eyes. Gidei mishtei yadav. Both of his hands were amputated. And Kiteya Mishtei Raglov, and both of his feet were cut off. And V'chol Gufei Malish Chin, and his entire body was filled with boils. Vayamutul B'Bayis Ru'ua, and he was living in this house that was very, very shaky, very unstable. V'Raglei Mitasai Munachem B'Sfalim Shamayim, and the feet of his bed were placed into pails of water. Why? In order that ants should not be able to crawl up on his bed. If he has ants crawling over him, he doesn't have hands to remove the ants. So what happened over here? So Pamachas, one time, you skip this parenthesis here, Bikshu Talmidov Lefanis Mitasai. His Talmidim wanted to take his bed out of this house. And Va'achakach Lefanis Esakelim, and then they're going to take all the other furniture out. And then they're going to take him out. So he says, in other words, actually, again, mitasai, they were going to take him on his bed out first, and then they're going to remove the other furniture in the house. So he says to his students, Banai, my children, panus hakelim, first take out the furniture, v'achakach panus mitasi, and then you'll take me out on the bed. Why? Shemuftach lachem, I can guarantee you, kozman shani bebayis, as long as I'm in the house, ein abayis neufel, the house will not collapse. But if I'm going to be taken out first, then the house will collapse and all the furniture will be destroyed there. So what happened? Pinuis hakelim. They took out the furniture, or all of the vessels from there. Then they took him out on the bed, and as soon as they came out, the house collapses. So now, Amru Lei Talmidov, his Talmidim said to him, Rebbe, our Rebbe, as we see, he's such a pure tzaddik, Lama also l'chakach. How did you deserve this, the situation that you're in, such a kind of a suffering of a life? Amalehem, so he says to them, Banai, my children, Ani garamti latzmi. I'm the one that caused this for myself. Shepamachas, Sayisi, Mahalech Baderech. At one time I was traveling on the way, Lebeis Chami, to the house of my father-in-law. V'haya imi masa gimel chamayrim. I had with me three donkeys that were carrying different packages. Echad shel meichel, one was carrying food, v'echad shel mishta, one was carrying drinks, v'echad shel minim megadim. Another was carrying delicacies. Ba'ani echad, and now a poor person came, v'amad li b'derech, and he stood by me in the way, v'amali, and he says to me, Rebbe, my Rebbe, parnaseini, give me food to eat. Amarti loi, I said to him, Hamtein, wait a moment, acha efrek min hachamayr, until I will unload from the donkey food that I can find for you. I didn't get a chance to unload the food for the person from the donkey until the person fell down and he died. So now that this happened, so Nachum Ish Gamzu felt terrible about this, that he didn't give him the food fast enough, and this person passed away. When I fell on this person's face, and I said as follows: Einai, my eyes, I didn't have enough mercy for your eyes, Yasumu should become blind. Yadei, my hands, did not have mercy on your hands, Yizgadmu should be amputated. Raglai, my feet, my feet should also be amputated. And I could not come down from what I caused here, until I said, Kol gufi yehei molishchin, my entire body should be filled with boils. And this is the so the Eibusha made this happen, and this is what he caused for himself. Amrullah, his students said after they heard all of this, Oy lanu shereinucha bekach, woe to us that we see you in such a kind of situation. Amalahem, Nachum Ish Gamzu responds to them and says, Oy li im loyri yisuni bekach. Woe to me would be if you would not see me this way. The point is that he wanted to get the suffering in this world and then to be zeiche to the pure schar, lost loving. This is the story with Nachum Ish Gamzu. Now the question is, where did he get his name from? V'amai korele Nachum Ish Gamzu. How did he get this name of Ish Gamzu? The Chomilse, the Havasalkele, anything that would happen to him, Amari would say, Gamzu l'toiva. This is also for the good. And the Gemara here brings the famous story. Zim nechada one time, Bayolish Duri Yisrael, Deiron lebek Kaser. Yidden wanted to send a gift to the Caesar. Amru, they said, Man Yezel, who should go? Yezel, Nachum Ish Gamzu, so let Nachum Ish Gamzu go, the Malumad ben Nissen, because he's always accustomed to miracles happening to him. Shadru biyade, so they sent in his hands, Maloi sifted, Avanim Tevis Margolius, a full chest of precious gems and pearls. Azal, so he went. Bas, Bahudire, Balalia, on the way, so he slept over in this inn at night. So people that were there living in that house, they got up in the middle of the night. They took this chest, and they filled it with sand. So what happens? We skip the parentheses. When he arrives to the king, so he gives them the gift that the Yidden are presenting him. They open it up to this chest, and they see that it's full of sand. The king wanted to kill all the Yidden. He says, look, the Yidden are embarrassing me. The king says, the Yidden are mocking me. So Nachum Ish Gamzu saw what happened. He says, this is all for the good. What happened? Eliyahu Hanavi came, he appeared in front of the king like one of the ministers. Amalei, he says to the king, Dilma, maybe maybe it's from that sand that their forefather Avram Avinu used. When he threw sand, it turned into swords. Gili, when he threw straw, Havagiri, it became into arrows. So maybe this is from that sand or that straw. The pasuk says, Yitin ka'afar charbay kakash nidav kashtay, that the afar and the kash turned into swords and into arrows. So there was one country, they were fighting there and they could not conquer that land. And so they checked this, they took this sand and they threw it, and it turned into swords and arrows. The kafshu, and they were able to conquer this country. So now what did they do? Ailo lebeginze. They took him into the storage, into the treasure house of the king. Omalul lesifte avanim toivis umargolius, and they filled this chest that Nachum Ish Gamzu brought. They filled it with precious stones and gems, and v'shadru, and they sent him off b'yikara rabba with tremendous honor. Now when he came, bisu bahudi yura, he came again back to the same inn. He slept over there in that same inn. Omrulei, they said to him, my isis ba'adoch, what did you bring with you? The avdulach yikara kulahai. that you did, that they made for you such a tremendous honor. Amar lahu, so he says to them, my deshakle mahacha amte lahasam. What I took from here, I brought there. In other words, he was telling them, the sand that you put over here inside my chest, that's what I delivered to the king. And he told them the story of what happened, that it was used and they threw it and it became into arrows and swords. Gavaldik. So what did these people do? Sasru l'diyurayu. So they went and they demolished the whole house, and they took every piece of sand that they found in that place, and they brought it to the king. And Amrulay, they say to the king, Hi Afred, I see, Hacha, that sand that Nochem Gamzer brought to you. Mididanu, it was brought from our location, from our house. But Kua, now they went and took this sand and they tried it and they used it to see if it turns into swords and spears. And nothing happened to it. And the king went and killed the people of this house that stole the money and stole the precious gems from Nochem Gamzu. That's how he got his name, Nochem Gamzu. The Rebbe once spoke about this Indian of Nochem Gamzu, and the Rebbe explained that this is different than what it says. Rabbi Akiva used to say, called Avad Rachmana L'tav Ovid. Everything Hashem does is for the good. When you say that it's for the good, that means that the incident itself is not necessarily good, but it could lead to good, right? The famous story that the Gemara says about Rabbi Akiva, that he was in the forest and this and that. But what happened itself was not good, but it led to something good afterwards. Nochem Gamzu is actually a level deeper. Nochem Gamzu is saying, this itself is good. Gamzu l'taiva. Here you see how the negative itself, the earth itself, the sand itself, turned into the swords and the spears and so on. That's a deeper level. This is connected to the Maimi we learned this morning, when you're Megala, the Pnimius of the Metzias itself, of the Seder Shtashtalis itself. That's a higher level. Said in the Mishnah, Eizihi Dever, what is considered to be a plague? Ira Mitzia Chomish Meis Ragli, if there's 500 people in the city, and there are 3 people that die in 3 consecutive days. That's what it said in the Mishnah. So in the Brayse it says a bit more about this. Tan Rabbanon, if you have a city, Amitzia Chomish Meis Ve'elef Ragli, if there's 1,500 people that come out of the city. What kind of city is this? Kagoin Kfar Akko, like the town of Akko. V'yatzei Mena Tisha Meisim B'shloisha Yamim. So there are 9 people that died in 3 days, one after the other. So this is a plague, and you have to daven and then fast for this. If these 9 people all died in 1 day, or it was spread out more, they died in 4 days, then ain't zeh dever. That's not considered to be a dever. Even though if you could think if it died in 1 day, that's even worse. But if it died all in 1 day, I could say that this is something unusual that happened over here. But it's not. Or if it's in 4 days, then it's spread out too much. If it's 3 days, then I say 9 people in 3 days from a city of 1,500 people, that's called a plague. Vira mitzia chomish meis ragli, a city that has 500 people, like we learned in the Mishnah. Kagoin kfar amiku, this village called Amiku. V'yatzam mimena shloisha meisim begimel yomim ze'achazeh, and 3 people died in 3 days, one after the other. Then areza dever. That's considered to be a plague. Right, so it all depends on the amount of people. If it's 500 people, 3 people that die. If it's 1,500 people, then 9 people that die, 3 days, one after the other. So the same thing here. If they all died on 1 day, or they died in 4 days, it's not considered to be a dever. Draikiris, this other city called Draikiris, was a ir amitzia chomish meis ragliava. It was a place that there were 500 people there. And 3 people all died on 1 day, and Gazer Rav Nachman, but Rav Chiste Tanisa. And Rav Nachman, the son of Rav Chiste, made a decree that they should fast on this day, even though it was all in 1 day. And Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, so Rav Nachman by Yitzchak said, according to who did he do this? In the Brayse we just learned that if they all die on 1 day, you don't make a fast. So he said, Keman, according to whose opinion is this? Ki Rab Meir, like Rab Meir that said regarding a shiur that is goring. You have an ox that gores, so there's the halacha of an ox that gores and he's a tam when he gores the first or second time, and the ox that gores 3 times and he becomes a muad, and then he has to pay full payment. So what does Rab Meir this say? The Omar richek nigichaisav chayev. If he gored and there's time between one goring and the next, meaning 1 day, second day, a third day, so he becomes a muad, he's going to be chayev to pay full payment for that. Most definitely, if he gores all at the same time, in the same day, one after the other, for sure, this could determine the fact that he's already a mu'ad. So similar over here, saying that it happened in 3 days is a sign that there's a plague here, and we're not going to say, oh, it happened, some chance that 3 people died. Same thing, if over here we say that if 3 people die in one day, for sure we're going to say that there's some kind of a plague going on over here. So this is Rav Meir's opinion. Amalei Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda le Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda says to Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Leikim mar Leisi legaban. Why doesn't the master get up and come and live with us, join us, come live with us, because where we are living is more chashuva people that learn Torah over here. The place where you're living is not a very chashuva place. Amalei, so he answers him, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak answers, Tanina, we learned in the Braisa as follows. Rabbi Yosi said, Loi mekoymei shel adam machabdei. The place where a person lives is not what gives a person honor. You're going to say, oh, if I live in a chashuva place, so that gives me honor. It's the other way around. The place that you live, so because you're such a prominent person, you're the one that gives the honor to the place. Shekei Matzino, what's the source of this? We find this, Bahar Sinai. When Nebisha gives the Torah. Shekolz Masha Shechina Shruya Allah. As long as the Shechina is there, Omra Torah, so the Torah says, Gamatzayim va'bakal yirel mula harahu, that the sheep and the cattle should not go there on this mountain. When the Shechina is there, so the Shechina gives the honor to the place. It's a Nistalka Shechina. When the Shechina is removed from that place, Mimenu from there, so now Amr Torah, what does the Torah say? When you blow the shofar, Heima Yala Bahar, when Matan Torah is over, and the Shechina is removed, so you can go back onto the mountain. So you see that it's the presence of the Shechina that gives the honor to the place, not the other way around. Same is also with the Almayid, the Mishkan, the Yidden had with them in the Midbar. Shekolz Manshun Notoi, as long as it's up in that place. Omra Torah says, that a person that's a Mitzayre has to go away from that place where the Mishkan is. Huglulu HaParayches, if they rolled up the Parayches and they moved to a different location, Hutru Zavim VaMitziram Lekanas L'Sham. So now all Zavim B'Tzeiram, people that are Tamei, could enter into that place. So you see the point is that the Mishkan, the Shechina, gives the prominence of the place. And the same thing Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak was saying, that my place where I'm living, I'm giving the covet for the place, I don't have to come to you. Amalei, so now, not Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda says to Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, so Ihachi, if so maybe, the Bachir says, Eikimana ve'ezel legabe mar. Maybe I should come and join you. You're saying that your place becomes so honorable because you live there, so I should come and maybe and join you. Amalei, so he says to him, no, you can stay in the place where you are. You have your own honor and your own merit that you can be in your own place. Why? Mutiv, it's better that Yavai Mone ben Pras, someone that has a full Mone, and he's the son of someone that only has half of a Mone. So someone that is a Mone ben Pras should come, Eitzel Mone ben Mone, should come to someone that has a full Mone, the son of someone that has a full Mone. This is all an expression. Going back to the 2 people that are having this conversation. So if you look here at their names, so one is Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda. So both he has the Rav before his name, and his father was also very chashuv, and his father's name was Rav Chisda. That's called a Mone ben Mone. He has the full title, and his father has the full title. But Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, he's Rav Nachman, but his father does not have a Rav in front of him, he's only Yitzchak. So he doesn't have that full title. So therefore he's saying that you, which are Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda, so if anything, I should come to you. Val Yavai Mone ben Mone, the one that has a full Mone, and he's the son of someone that has a full Mone, meaning both you have the title of Rav, and your father has the title of Rav, should not come, Eitzel Mone ben Pras, the someone that has a full Mone, the son of someone that only has a Pras, because his father was only Yitzchak. So therefore, in the end, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak stayed in his place, and Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda stayed in his place. Besura, in the city of Sura, which is somewhere in Bavel, Haves Davrasa Bishvivuse de Rav. So there was a dever, there was a plague in the area where Rav was living. Again, Havadavrasa, there was a plague. Bishvivuse de Rav, in the area, in the section where Rav was there, Loi Havas Davrasa. This plague did not take any effect. So Savru Mine, so they were sure that why is this? Mishum Schuse de Rav, the Nafish, because Rav has such a tremendous schus, so therefore, even though there was a plague there, but in the area where he is, there was no plague. So it was shown to them in a dream as follows. Rav, the Nefisha, is a Chuse Tuve. Rav that has such great schusim, Ha Milsa Zrutrile Rav. The fact that he and the people in his area are not affected by this plague, that's something that's insignificant for Rav. It's not because of his chus. His chusim are much greater than this. Ella, rather, mishamahu gavra, it's because of a different person that lives in that neighborhood that's the cause of this chos that people shouldn't die. The shayel maros vila lekvura, that he would lend out to people his shovel or his utensils for other people to dig up a caver for people. So therefore, it's in that chos that in his area there was no plague. But it wasn't in Rav, his chosim are much greater than this. Similar story, B'Dreikris, in the city of Dreikris, Haves, delected, there was a fire. B'Shivuse de Rav Huna, in the neighborhood of Rav Huna, Le'aves lekta. The fire did not affect over there. Savamina, so again, they also thought that P'schuse de Rav Huna, the nafish, because of Rav Huna's great schusim, so therefore the fire did not affect their area. It was shown to them in a dream. Hi, Zutrele Rav Huna. This is something which is petty for the great schusim of Rav Huna. Ella, rather, what's the reason why the fire did not affect that area? Because of this woman, the mechamem is tanura, she would heat up the oven, or meshayle l'shvivuse. And then after the oven was heated up and available for use, she would lend it out to other people in her neighborhood to use. Amru leila Rav Yehuda, they said to Rav Yehuda, Asu kamtzi, that are kamtzi, which are grasshoppers that are coming to the area, and they're going to eat up all the crop in the field. Gazar tanise, so he decreed a fast. Amrulei, so they said to him, Loi kamafsudam. They're not ruining our field. They're not going to eat up everything in the field. Why you're so immediate, so quick to establish a fast? Amalahu, so he says to them, Zavda aisabadayu. Did they come together with their own suitcase, that they have their own food with them, these grasshoppers, that they're not going to eat up the crop? If you know that they're coming here, so eventually they're going to ruin our crop, so therefore you already was geyser at tainus. They said to Rav Yehuda, Ike meisne b'chaziri. There is this plague amongst the swine. So Gazar Tanisa, so he immediately decreed a fast. So the Gemara explains, what does this mean? Name, shall we say, Kasav Rav Yehuda holds, Makkeh Mushulachas, if you have this Makkeh that has come, and where is it? So the Bachir says, Bimin Echad, by one kind, Mishulachas Mikol Aminim. So we have to be afraid that Makkeh that's by one min will go to another min. So over here you have the Makkeh by the Chazirim. Does that mean that we have to be concerned that it's going to come over to human beings? In other words, anytime you have any Makkeh, any plague, swine flu, okay, so you have a makkah that's by one min, it could come over to a human being. So the Gemara says, Loi, usually we don't say that, but Shani Chaziri, the swine is different, the Damien Me'ayil Levnei Inchi, their stomach, and their digestion in the stomach is similar to the way it is by a human being. Some of the animals, they have an extra stomach, and therefore it's different the way they digest food from a human being. But the swine is similar to the person. So therefore, over here we do have to be concerned. Amrele Shmuel, they said to Shmuel, Ikke meisne beichzoi. There is a plague by Beichzoi, which is a place in Bavel, a certain area in Bavel. Gazar Tanise, so he was geyser to fast in his city that was in a different location. Amalei, they said to Shmuel, but v'hamerchek, it's very far. Amar, so he says, Leke me'avre hocha, the pasikle is that there's no river, no water that, a bridge, that goes over a river that is going to separate from our area to that area. So in other words, his point is people are traveling from one area to another area, so therefore we have to make a tainus. So in other words, you don't make a travel ban. People are coming, people are traveling, but nevertheless, you have to make a fast. Amrulei Rav Nachman. Another story happened similar. They said to Rav Nachman, Ikke meisne ba'aredi Yisrael. There's a plague in Eretz Yisrael, and they were in Bavel. Gazar Tanise, so he decreed a fast for the people in Bavel. Omer, and he said as follows: Im Gvira Loike, if the Gvira, which is the prominent woman, that's the homeowner, so to speak, and she's suffering, so Shivcha, the maidservant, Loikol Shekain, for sure should suffer along with her. So the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, which is the prominent place for Yidden to be, so they're suffering, so the people in Bavel, compared to a maidservant, should also fast. So now the Gemara says, so what does this mean? The only reason why Rav Nachman said to decree a fast on the people of Bavel, the Gvira v'Shivcha, because he compared it to the Gvira, to the maidservant, and the prominent woman. Oh, shifcha, shifcha. If it would just be two maidservants and there's a plague by one and there's the other that's in a distant place, loi, he would not decree this fast. But what did we say in the story right before this? When they told Shmuel that there is death, that there's a plague in Beichazai, Gazatanisa, and he made a tinus in the place where he was living. I believe Shmuel was in Pumpadisa, even though it's a different location. So we see not only because it was in Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara says, Shani Hasam, Kivin the Ikke Shayarte, the Lavi V'asya Ba'adei. Over there, we know that people travel from this place of Beichazai to Pumpadisa, and they accompany people that come from one place to another, so they're going to bring the sickness. So therefore, over there, he has to make the fast. Whereas from Eretz Yisrael, you don't have to make the fast. You see, Mamish, the Gemara is dealing with this Indian of a virus or whatever it is, coming from one location to another. Abbe Umne. There was an individual that was called Abbe, and he was a doctor or a bloodletter. That's a literal translation of Umne. So Have Asile Shlame Mimisifta Derikia Kol Yoime. So he would have a baskal that he would hear from the Misifta Derikia every single day. He would have the schus to hear this baskal every day. L'Abaye, how often would Abaye hear a baskal? Kamayla Yom de Shabbat, once a week on Erev Shabbos. L'Rave, how often would Rave hear a baskal? Kamayla Yom de Kippur, only once a year on Erev Yom Kippur. So Abaye felt bad about this because of what he heard about Abba Umne, that this simple doctor, this bloodletter, can hear a baskal every day, and I could only hear it once a week. Amrulay, they said to him, you can't do, you're not on the level of all of the good deeds that he does. And what were the good deeds of this doctor? So what was the good things about what this doctor did? Whenever he would have to do his work and he would have his patients coming to him, so he would do the men separately, and the women separately. He would keep them separate. So this was the tznius that he did. And also, when he would have to take out blood, so what would he do? So he had this piece of garment that had this like horn that was in it that he would use to the havas bezieh ki kuslisa, that had a little hole in it like a kuslisa. I'm not exactly sure what a kuslisa is. It's this utensil. What's the translation there? Huh?
Cupping horn.
Okay, some kind of a utensil that they would use, like today we have a needle that or whatever it is to let blood. So he would create this little garment that had this horn in it, and it had a little hole in order to use this to let the blood. And kiyavas asyale itze, when a woman would come, so instead of exposing her, havel malbishla, he would dress her, he would use this garment to cover her, and like this, it would only have this little opening to take out the blood, so he would be able to keep her modest. So you shouldn't see and have her exposed in any immodest way. And another thing, and also for people paying him, so he had this discreet way for people to pay him. He had this place, like sort of a box, the shadibei pshiti, the people that would throw in the coins over there. The shakel, and he would take from there. The islay shadibei. One who had money would throw money into it. The leslay, the one that did not have money, did not pay, and lay michsif, and would not be embarrassed. He wouldn't see who did pay and who did not pay. So this was his tremendous tzidkus, both in the tznius and also in offering his services for people that were poor, that didn't have what to pay. So once he had the Talmidei Chachamim that came to him. So agra minei loy shakel. He did not take any payment from them. Ubasar the koi, and after they got up from the service that he gave them as patients, yav lei pshiti. He gave them coins, and he said to them, he would say to them, Zil bari nafshach, go buy some food for yourself. After bloodletting, you're very weak, and go buy food for yourself. Yom echad, one day, Shada Abaye zugad Rabban Olam Mivdekei. Rabbi Abaye sent a group of chachamim to go and inspect them to see what a tzidkus is. He sat down these Talmidei Chachamim that came to him, v'achlinu, v'ashkinu, he gave them to drink and to eat, and umachluhu bistrike balelia. And not only that, at night he folded below them this bistrike, this garments, or what is it made from? Woolen garments. He folded for them that they should be able to sleep comfortably on it. Latzafra, in the morning, they wanted to continue testing, and what did they do? Karchinu, they folded it, v'shaklinu, and they took it with them. And v'kamu, they got up and left, v'nafkale l'shuke, and they went out into the marketplace, making believe as if they're going to take it with them and steal it and sell it. and they were standing there in the marketplace with this garment that they took from him, from the doctor. Vashkichinu, and they encountered this doctor himself, Abba, this doctor. Amalei, so they said to the doctor, L'shai meimar, hey Chishava, why don't you evaluate how much this is worth? We want to sell this. Right, so they really, as Rashi says, they were doing this just to test them to see, is he going to suspect them that they're stealing it? How is he going to evaluate it? Amalei, so the doctor says to them, Hachi v'hachi, I know the value, I don't have to evaluate it, this is the value that it is. Amalei, so they say to the doctor, V'dil m'shavet fei, maybe it's worth more. Amalei, b'hachi shaklinu, this is what I bought it for, so I know exactly what the value is. Amrulei, so they said to him, Didach niu, this is yours, v'shaklinu minach, and we took it from you. And Amrulei, they said to him, "B'matusa minach, we beg from you forgiveness. B'mai chashadtinon, that this that you have suspected us, that we wanted to take it and sell it." And so they asked him, "Tell us, what did you suspect us of doing here? What did you think that we were doing this when we were trying to sell this?" Amalei, so the doctor says to them, what I said to myself is, Pidyin shvuyim iklul rabbanan. Probably you had some good cause, a cause of pidyin shvuyim. You wanted to redeem someone that was captured, and you and you were embarrassed to tell me that you're collecting money for this purpose, and therefore you took this garment to sell it to make the money for tzedakah. So in other words, he was not choishe them that they want to stam steal. He was melamed zchus on them. Amrulei, so now they said to the doctor, so hashtu nishkalinu mar, why don't you take it back from us? Amralahu, so he says to them, me'ahu shaita, from that time that you took it, asachtinu midatoi litzdaka. I already took my mind off of this, and I made up my mind that I'm giving it to you for the purpose of tzedakah. So he didn't want to take it back. So they saw that this doctor is taka a big tzaddik. Now, just to finish off with the story here, so we said before that Rava only heard a baskel once a year in Erev Yom Kippur. So Rava felt very bad because Abaye would hear the baskel once a week. So they told him, the kamagnes akula krocha, that you should be happy for yourself that your schus comes and shields your entire city. So that's enough of a schus for you, and therefore don't feel bad that you don't hear the baskel every single day.